What's going on, guys? It's Chris Toro, and I've been thinking for a while, if I were to pick up the Nintendo Switch today, which games would I buy first? So I let the eShop library sink in for a little while, and thought for a long time exactly what those games would be. So here's my top 20 list of the best Nintendo Switch games out now. Number 20 is the first third-party game that I picked up for the Switch, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Even though this port came out sometime after the initial release, Xenoverse 2 is still getting support via DLC for the Switch, with the latest being the Dragon Ball Super add-ons, like the Ultra Instinct transformation. So till this day I'm still playing Xenoverse 2 on my Switch, and there's still plenty of story content to be explored. Number 19 is a third-party game that not a lot of people were talking about, but for a few months I was hunting for at GameStops, everywhere. This game is LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. Along with its open world, it also has co-op, and over 200 superhero characters, some of whom you can unlock with cheat codes. The aesthetic of the game is very close to the original version, and to me is one of the best looking Nintendo Switch games out there. It also plays just like the original, so the gameplay is right on par with the aesthetic. I was looking for the physical copy for a long time, and it's proven to be worth it. Number 18 is one of the more recommended horror games. Just like The Grudge for the Wii, Outlast 2 has proven to be an exceptional horror game on the Switch, and I was looking forward to its release since last year. It's also another game that's proven to be worth the wait. Without a doubt, it's one of the more mature games for the Switch, and it's probably the most disturbing one, but it looks identical to the original, and is very well optimized to the Switch. It even looks better in handheld mode. It's one of the more fluid horror games on the Switch right now. And number 17 is the original Outlast. Since it's the game that started everything, it has more of the iconic moments that defined the series. Without a doubt, the original Outlast is unforgettable, and it's a horror game that you need to pick up on the Switch, if you're into that kind of stuff. And number 16 is an indie title that still till this day proves to be one of the most ridiculously fun co-op experiences I've ever had. Overcooked. Playing Overcooked will require you to talk to your friend probably more than you've talked to them the entire year. Its gameplay and stages are so ludicrous and complicated that you can't help but want more when you're done with that first frustrating level. It's just such a smart game, and if you're into those kind of shows like The Iron Chef or Chopped, you'll simply love Overcooked. Number 15 is a Nintendo 3DS port that a couple years back had a console release as well, Resident Evil Revelations. Though it could feel more on the linear side at times, the original Revelations is one of the best Resident Evil games to come out in recent memory, with it adopting the Resident Evil 4 gameplay and original Resident Evil horror theme. Revelations is one of the better Resident Evil titles, so if you're into survival horror with some action, then Resident Evil Revelations is one of the best that you'll get on the Switch. Number 14 is also a third-party Nintendo Switch game, one that was announced alongside the Switch itself, the Elderscrolls V Skyrim. This is one of the most immersive open-world fantasy games on the Switch right now, with its multiple-choice narrative, upgradable and expansive magic and equipment system, along with a great storyline. Skyrim is an instant classic on the Switch. It's one of those games that never ceases to amaze you. Since its release on the Switch, I'm still going back to it and finding new things. Being a toned-down special edition version of Skyrim, it'll include all of the DLC, so if you're into a massive immersive game, then Skyrim is one of the best you can pick up on the Switch. Number 13 is a first-party title for the Switch. It was announced during the Switch's presentation. Though some could say the combat is slow, ARMS is still a very addictive multiplayer game that is still selling very well on the Switch. Since it's a first-party title on the Switch, it's still getting support for the Switch till this day, and seeing how awesome all of the characters are, as well as their potential, I can't wait to see where this series goes. There's still a bunch of tournaments for it, just like Splatoon 2, and surprisingly, a lot of people are still playing it. It's one of the better multiplayer games on the Switch, and it's a first-party title that you need to support. So number 12 is actually a very special game to me. Since the first part's release on the Wii, this RPG series proved that Final Fantasy isn't the only franchise that could get us hooked. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one of the best games I played last year. Even though some say that the automatic combat system is a bit of a letdown for them, I think there's so much more in the game that does more than compensate for that slight setback due to expectations. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a fantastic story, gameplay, amazing graphics, a big open world, and it's also a first-party title, so if you want to see a sequel for it just like I do, you probably want to pick this one up right away just like everybody else. Number 11 has to be one of the most confusing and conflicting titles that I've ever played, but it is without a doubt one of the most popular titles on the Switch, Stardew Valley. This third-party indie farming game has taken over lives to say the least, especially since you can now have it on a hybrid system. Ask anybody and they'll probably tell you that they picked up a Nintendo Switch just for Stardew Valley. And if you're into farming games like Harvest Moon, then you'll be right at home with Stardew Valley, because because it is incredibly inspired by it. Number 10 is one of the most classic and most addictive multiplayer games on any platform, and that's Rocket League. Since the first time I picked it up on my PlayStation 4, I had a bit of a problem putting it down, and now since it's on the console hybrid, I think we're all in big trouble. When it was first announced, I couldn't have imagined that Rocket League would be doing as good as it is now, but who knew soccer and cars can mix so well? Number 9 is a recent Switch first-party title. One that, even though a lot of people say it's easy, when you play in co-op, is some of the best gameplay you'll experience on the Switch. Kirby Star Allies. And don't underestimate this pink bubble. Kirby as a character has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but with the addition of his 17 friends, the possibilities are almost limitless. Also, to supplement that, you can customize their abilities. Since I played Kirby on the 3DS, I wanted to see a little bit of an expansion on the universe, and given how many characters are available in this game, I didn't mean that much, Nintendo, but Kirby Star Allies is so much fun, and it's a very impressive first-party title. Number 8 is a game that a lot of people were asking for on the Switch. Some were even begging, and during the 2017 Game Awards, our prayers were answered. The original Bayonetta 1 was also ported to the Wii U, but due to the hardware limitations, you couldn't truly play the game portable, and now Platinum Games, Nintendo, and Sega gave us that opportunity to play it portable on the Switch, and it's pretty much a perfect port, running for the most part at 60 frames per second at a resolution of 720p, but the original was no different. The original Bayonetta is one of the best games I've ever played, and the Nintendo Switch gave me a chance to play it any way I wanted to. Number 7 was a shocker to everybody. None of us saw this third-party title coming, but the second it was announced, I was counting the days till its release. Doom is one of the most high-octane, violent, and adrenaline-filled action first-person shooters for the Nintendo Switch. Those 10 plus hours you spend on it will leave you wanting more, and unfortunately you can't really get that much out of the multiplayer in it, but there are so many varying difficulties and modes that it makes the $60 price tag well worth it, especially for the fact that it's one of the most impressive looking Switch games. Doom showed us that a first-person shooter like that is possible on the Switch, and that's legendary in my opinion. Number 6 is one of my personal favorites, and it's a game that I constantly kept going back to with some of the best co-op gameplay I've played in years. Resident Evil Revelations 2. I have over 80 hours put into this game, and most of it was from co-op. My friend and I actually sat down for hours on end and couldn't stop playing Revelation 2's raid mode. Not only is the co-op amazing, but Revelations 2 also has an episodic story. It's actually a great survival horror storyline. It's something else that makes me go back to it. Not only is Revelations 2 better and more open than Revelations 1, but it's stuffed with content, and only for $20. This game is not only worth your money, but worth your time, as its raid mode is one of the best co-op options on the Switch right now. Number 5 has proven to be a very addictive multiplayer Switch port. It was originally on the Wii U and did pretty well on that platform too, but on the Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has a life of its own. This was one of the first go-to multiplayer games I had on the Switch. It's a console-grade Mario Kart game that's also portable. What more do I need to say? Number 4 is hands down the best action-adventure game I've played on the platform. But not only is it the best action game I played on the Switch, but it's probably the best that I played on any platform, period. Bayonetta 2 takes what Bayonetta 1 had and cranks it up to 11. It looks better, it plays better, it even sounds better, and a lot of its action set pieces have so much going on that I don't even know how to describe it. The Bayonetta franchise is a spiritual successor to Devil May Cry, so that's your foundation right there. It's one of the most over-the-top games right now, and it's on the Switch, so that means you can play it portable. Bayonetta 2 is a very impressive port. If you thought of the Switch as primarily being a portable system, then pick up Bayonetta 2 and see how you feel after. Number 3 is the most highly acclaimed multiplayer franchise throughout any platform, Splatoon 2. Splatoon 1 was impressive enough, receiving awards for all of its accomplishments, but Splatoon 2 for Nintendo Switch builds on that foundation and makes everything better, if that's even possible. And it's also a franchise that continuously gets support from Nintendo. There's even a new story mode that's coming out for it. Even though to me the themes are a little weird, Splatoon 2 is still a highly stylistic multiplayer title, and it proved that you don't need a gun, violence, blood, or even groundbreaking graphics to make an amazing game and exceptional multiplayer franchise. Number 2 is probably very predictable, Sonic Forces. Nah, I'm just kidding. Number 2 is hands down one of the biggest first-party Nintendo titles to be announced and released. It not only revolutionized Mario games, it picked up where Mario 64 left off. And yes, I'm talking about Super Mario Odyssey. This Mario sandbox is a near-perfect game. Its themes are catchy, it has one of the most original stories in Super Mario history. Its gameplay and mechanics are the best in the series so far, and it's even the best-looking Mario sandbox game probably ever. Not only that, but it even includes co-op, which I tried out and had an amazing time time with. Super Mario Odyssey is a legendary title that nobody's going to forget anytime soon. It's still the most talked about Switch title ever, and besides Stardew Valley, it's hands down the reason why people bought the system. Super Mario Odyssey's launch was probably bigger than the Nintendo Switch launch itself. Number 1 is the most memorable open world title I played last year. It was Game of the Year, everybody was talking about it. If people weren't getting a Switch, they were buying this game instead. At some point there were more copies of the game sold than the actual system itself, which doesn't make any sense. And though it came out on the Wii U as well, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, with its amazing story, one-of-a-kind open world, incredible graphics, and optional portability, The Legend of Zelda is the best game on the Nintendo Switch right now. In those 100 plus hours that I played, Breath of the Wild never ceased to amaze me. There's so much hidden in its world that even a couple months back when I went back to it, I still found something new. But that something new wasn't just a different kind of flower or a different kind of weapon. It was an entire section of the game that ultimately changed everything and made replaying it and going another 100 hours that much more appealing. Though a lot of people talk about its breakable weapon system as a negative thing, it made the world of Breath of the Wild that much more beautiful and fleeting. I found myself not taking anything for granted, so for that reason everything in the world was that much more one of a kind. And I didn't think anything would measure up to the world itself, but after getting to know a lot of the characters and going deeper into the story, I was pleasantly surprised to find that I was wrong about that. There's so much to experience in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it is rightfully 2017's Game of the Year. Even though there were so many other great titles coming out in the same year, Breath of the Wild still came out on top. And let me know what your top 20 Nintendo Switch games are. And what did you think about this list? Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Later.